Shanti, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to the Temple of Kaliyuga this afternoon and to the noon meditation. May the infinite Lord of life, of laughter, and of love bless you at this moment. May each cell of your being and each petal of your mind be touched, be healed, and be harmonized. May vim and vigor and vitality be yours. May love and laughter be yours. May you truly find that which you seek, and may you find that which you seek surely, swiftly, and most harmoniously. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The title of the meditation this afternoon is Learning to Laugh, Learning to Love, Learning to Live. And since I'm beginning the meditation with learning to laugh, I thought it might be appropriate to tell a little joke. It just so happens that in New York City, there happened to be a group of atheists, and this group of atheists started a club, and they would meet on a regular basis. And they were fairly wealthy. The group that started was, the whole group, men and women, were fairly wealthy. And they would meet periodically and discuss whatever atheists talk about. Probably anything except God. Or maybe that's all they talked about, who knows. Anyway, as with all things in life, time passed, and as time passed, the gentleman, name was Adam, who started the club, got older and older and older, and just through the normal things that happened in life, he passed away. And, we would say he made his transition. Now, in his will, it just so happens that he said that when he does die, that he wanted no expense spared on his service for his funeral. And so, keeping to his wishes, the other club members organized the service for his wake and burial. And during the wake, which was open to the general public, they got the most expensive funeral parlor that they could find. And their service, of course, met their standards of expense that had to be paid. And the most expensive casket was obtained. They bought the most expensive casket. And again, keeping with his wishes, they bought the most expensive suit, tuxedo that they could find, the most expensive shirt and tie, and he was dressed in that for the service, open casket. And so it was set for a particular date, and that particular evening it was open, and people were coming in, and of course lining up for the service, and it was fairly well attended, and so there was a line that was going up to the casket, and down the street there happened to be a Catholic church, and there was also a synagogue there nearby, and the minister of the church and the rabbi of the synagogue knew each other fairly well, and so they says, why don't we go and pay our respects to Adam? And said it might be worthwhile. And so they said, okay, well, let's do that. And so they went in, and of course they got in line, and they had to wait in line for a little while, and they got up to the front of the parlor, and they stood there together in front of the casket, giving their respects. And then after a few moments, the priest finally opened his eyes, looked at Adam and everything, the casket and everything that was so extravagant. And he said to the rabbi, how about that? All dressed up and nowhere to go. I hope you got a kick out of that. I remember I heard that one from actually someone that was really highly spiritually evolved, and he told the joke, and I thought it was funny, and so I'm passing it on, hopefully for your enjoyment, and hopefully it wasn't offensive in any way. Laughter is very important in life. Very important. If you can't laugh, if you can't learn to laugh, in my opinion, you can't love. You can't learn to love. And if you can't laugh, and you can't love, you really, really can't live a full life. So it's important to be able to laugh. And when I think about laughter, I think about, as I've gone through my life, there have been a lot of speakers that I've listened to, a lot of them on TV, and I've listened to speakers in person, of course. I've listened to speakers on the radio, the internet, YouTube, and things like that. And being a public speaker myself, I mentally take notes as I'm listening to speakers. And fairly often, not always, but most of the time, when I listen to a speaker, and I think when you listen to a speaker, what you'll find that when someone is effective, when someone is what we would call a good speaker, you go in and you listen to the person, he, she, whoever it might be, you listen to the person, and if you walk away and you say, boy, that was really inspirational, you feel good after listening to someone speak. At least in my experience, what I have found one of the most critical elements, one of the most important elements, or techniques, however you want to say it, the technique that's used to connect with people and to really be inspirational as you speak with people. The technique is called laughter. It's called joking. The most inspirational speakers, the most magnetic, the most charismatic speakers that I've heard, that I remember hearing, speaking, and I may not remember what they talked about or the specifics of what they talked about, but the thing that drew me into their discussion, to their topic, whatever it might be, whatever it was that they were talking about, it always involved humor. The best speakers were the ones when they would talk, they'd say something serious, and then they'd always end the serious part of the discussion with some kind of a punchline, a little joke, some humor there. And, sometimes it would be, a belly laugh where it was just really funny and you just had to laugh out loud. Other times it would be more subtle and you listen and all of a sudden there's the joke and you kind of smile to yourself. It's, really, it doesn't stand out that much, but you can tell there's their humor that's there. And so as you're listening to the person speak, as they go through and they talk and they have their discussion, what they're talking about, when they tell these little jokes, when they tell these little stories, these little anecdotes that are humorous, it draws you back into their aura, into their frame of mind. It pulls you in automatically. And I think that's important. It's important about public speaking. It's important what I'm talking about today, laughter. You gotta learn to laugh. This is the last Sunday of the year 1920, and this particular year has been difficult. It's been difficult to laugh this year. A lot of struggles that all of us have gone through and difficulties in that. I think what's been important for my life as I've stepped through the past month, stepped through the past year, I've been on the internet, and I'll listen to what's going on, the theme of the day, for better or for worse. A lot of it's dealing with politics and political situations, and unfortunately, politics has become an everyday part of life, and that is very unfortunate. It should be the last thing. It should be at the end of the list, not at the beginning of the list. But as they say, c'est la vie. Anyway, I've been listening to people, speakers, along with the news and events and things like that. And there have been a couple speakers that I've run across and I've listened to, and I found that I can be in a serious mood, let me put it that way. Maybe not feeling psychologically in the best frame of mind. And there's a couple of speakers that I've come across, and I've listened to them, and when I've listened to them, I just had, like I said, sometimes I had to shake my head because they would be joking. Sometimes I would just laugh out loud. And when that would happen, watching YouTube, and YouTube videos, in one particular case that I can think of. And after I was done listening to the video, a week would go by and I'd say, I got to go back and listen to that again. And I would do that. I'd go back and listen to the tape. One of the speakers that I've listened to, just for your own information, as long as I'm talking about this subject, was Dennis Prager. And he's Jewish, and he would say, when he would talk, basically his life is about giving inspirational talks. And he says, really what I want to talk about is the Bible and religion and these sort of things. But he has also gotten a reputation, because when I say the name, you may know him. And of course, he talks a lot about politics. Like I said, unfortunately, it's just happened that way. And dealing with politics is something that happens whether you want it or not. It happens to you, I guess I would say. Lately, over the past 5-10 years, it's become stronger and stronger and stronger, maybe 20 years, something like that. But he would talk, and he would talk about religion. He would talk about the Jewish faith, and he talked about the Bible, and he would talk a lot about the Bible. And he says that's really what he wants to talk about. But because of his environment, because of what's happening in the world today, a lot of his discussion winds up being drawn into left versus right, whatever, however you want to say it. Anyway, what drew me to him and caused me to listen to a lot of his things that he would talk about is that he was rolling on the ground, joking around, laughing every 5 minutes. I mean, he would say something serious and then there'd be a joke. Say something serious and then there'd be a joke. Say something and say a joke. And you're listening to a very serious discussion, something very serious, and laughing about it. And at the same time, again, we're talking about an inspirational speaker. So while the laughing and the joking is going on, there's information that's being communicated and information comes across. And I think that's important when speaking. And if you're a public speaker, or if you ever have the opportunity to speak in public, you may think about that. And it's always good somehow to get the humor in there. If you really want to get the attention of your audience, if you want them to listen to you instead of their mind wandering around, every once in a while throw in something in there that's a little humorous. I remember I was talking to my guru one time. This was a number of years, and it was at the temple, and the temple was going through a particularly difficult time then, and things going wrong at the temple. And I was talking with my guru and about the temple and about things, and he says, well, you know how it is, Murphy's Law. And I kind of smiled and I says, yeah, I know about Murphy's Law. And I says, well, yeah, but you know Shays Law, right? And he says, no, what's that? And I said, well, Murphy's an optimist. And I said that, and he heard that, and the conversation again went from very serious to very light and funny. He got a kick out of it. So I remember that one of those nice moments that happened in my relationship with my guru. And his guru was Shelley. We say Sri Shelley Ji at the temple, which is an honorific title of his name. And again, over the past year, I had come across some notes, and the notes were about a time when Shelley had come to the temple. That was in 1985. And he gave a lecture series. He came in on a Wednesday evening, and he was there till Sunday, and he spoke during that time in the evenings. And of course, I was there at the time and listening to him, and I enjoyed, but I was taking a lot of notes, and I was listening more about, I was writing down the notes, so I was kind of paying attention to what he was listening, what he was talking about, and writing notes. And I remember that the talks that he gave were really inspirational and really valuable and very interesting. And periodically, since then, I would go through the notes, because I remember it was so nice to listen to him speak and to listen to him talk. And so I thought, hey, I got an idea. Instead of going through my notes, I'm going to go and listen to the tape. Because I had the tape of him speaking. And I did. And I listened to the tapes, and guess what? As I'm listening to the tapes, he's telling one joke after another joke. When I first heard it, it didn't dawn on me. I didn't realize it. But for lack of a better way of saying it, he's a funny son of a gun. I mean, he had an enormous sense of humor. And he would say something very serious about life, about yoga, about Kriya Yoga, and he would end it with a punchline. He would end it with a joke. And it was through the whole series, he was constantly joking. And they weren't rolling on the ground laughing jokes, but they were jokes at minimum. You had to sit there and smile to yourself, and you'd nod and say, "Oh yeah, I can relate to that." And sometimes you just laugh out loud when he would joke around. And so in speaking, humor is important. Kriyananda had a sense of humor. It was a little more of a dry sense of humor, but it was there. And so he was also that, had a charismatic type of personality, because he had the ability, when things got a little too heavy, to be able to joke around and to say, to give that punchline, which would get your attention back onto what the subject matter was. Learning to laugh is really important in life. It's a part of life, and it's important to life. And again, without learning to laugh, you can't really learn to love. And that's really the next step. After you learn to laugh, and maybe even a little bit of self-deprecating humor. A lot of times people use that. They use anecdotal stories about kind of embarrassing things that would happen in their lives, or tiny little embarrassing little things, or maybe that's the wrong word, but things that are that normally you wouldn't want someone to know about, but you tell it. You tell it in there in a frame of mind in a way you frame it so that people connect to you. They connect to you, and they laugh, they chuckle, and they enjoy it, and they enjoy the humor. And you can make a connection because you realize they're the same as you are. They're human, you're human, and we all make these funny little mistakes as we walk through life. And it's nice to share these little mistakes, especially if you're a speaker that comes along and you're supposed to have this kind of aura of perfection around you as a speaker, and everybody's listening to you. And the truth is, if you can add some humor into it, these little life stories that are humorous, it just adds so much to the speaking, to the talking, and to the relating, and able to relate to other people. And when you do that, it leads to the next step, which is learning to love. And the two really go together. Laughter is love, and laughter is an expression of love. And with those opening thoughts, what I'd like to do is stop for a moment and meditate with you. Now, if I was at the temple, I would literally stop talking and meditate, and take 3 or 4 minutes to meditate. But I'm going to modify that technique, and instead of a meditation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a little story, or a short story. It's something I came across again on the internet as I was surfing the web, and it was a site. It was Dare to Do, and it was about short little stories that were short anecdotes about life. Not necessarily funny, but something that we can relate to in that part of the speaking. And so for the meditation period of this Sunday noon meditation, I'm going to give you a Tao wisdom story. Once upon a time, there lived a sage who was known for his ability to solve difficult problems. One day, he had two visitors who needed his advice. Both were polite young men, and each insisted that the other should go first. After some discussion, they discovered that their questions were essentially the same, so they settled on speaking with the sage at the same time. One of the young men asked the sage, "Master, our problems are similar. We are both low-level employees being treated badly at work. We get no respect at all, and our employers constantly push us around. Can you please tell us if we should quit our jobs?" The sage closed his eyes and meditated at length. The two young men waited patiently until finally the sage opened his eyes. He gave them the answer in 5 words: only a bowl of rice. The two young men thanked the sage and departed. They contemplated the answer as they walked back to the city. After a while, one of them broke the silence. "That was interesting. What do you think the sage meant?" The other one was thoughtful. "Well, it's fairly obvious. The bowl of rice represents our daily meals." "I agree," said the first young man. "I think he was telling us that the job is nothing more than a means to make a living." "Yes. When you come right down to it, that's all we get out of our job, our daily meals." They went their separate ways. One of them continued working at the same place. The other one submitted a letter of resignation and immediately upon his return went home to the countryside and took up farming. After several years, this young man achieved considerable success as a farmer. He used what he had learned in the city to import high-quality seeds. The fruits and vegetables he grew became known as the best in the region. He enjoyed not only the great profits, but also a reputation as an expert. The young man who remained at work also did well. It was as if he became a different person. He took on difficult tasks and demonstrated an ability to handle adversity. He rose up through the ranks and received one promotion after another until he became a manager. One day, the two of them met again by chance. Once they got caught up with one another, they realized that they had taken 2 very different paths based on the exact same answer from the sage. They were both wealthy and happy. But which path was the correct path? How strange. The manager was puzzled. The master said the same things to us, and we both heard it the same way. Why did you quit? The farmer was also puzzled. I understood his words immediately. The job was nothing more than the means to get my daily meals. So why force myself to stay? I also think it should be obvious, the manager laughed. The job meant nothing more than a bowl of rice. So why was I getting so worked up over it? As soon as I understood this, I realized there was no need for me to get so upset. I did not have to take the abuse heaped upon me personally. So, of course, I stayed. Isn't that what he meant? Now I am completely confused. The farmer shook his head and he said, "Did he mean for us to take your path or my path? Let's go and see him again and get to the bottom of this." Once again, they presented themselves before the sage and explained the reason for their visit. "As you can see, Master, we would really like to know the real meaning of your advice all those years ago. Can you give us some insights?" Again, the sage closed his eyes. The two men waited patiently as before. After a spell, the sage opened his eyes and gave them his answer, again in 5 words. Only a difference of thought. So you see, in life, each of us has our own path to follow. And as we follow that path, it's like a river flowing down a mountain. As it flows down the mountains, it seeks its own level, it seeks its own path, and it moves down the mountain, and one river forms on one side of the mountain, and another river forms on another side of the mountain, but each of them gets to the bottom of the mountain. Each of them gets to the valley at some point in time. And how we get there is not really important. What's really important is our attitude, and our attitude towards life. That's my short meditation. As I said, a big part of life is learning to laugh. Another part of life is learning to love. And when we talk about love in an inspirational sense, it really doesn't have to do with man-woman love. The love we talk about inspirationally has to do with what's called, or what we call at the temple, divine love. And divine love is not really emotional love. It's that understanding that you offer to the person that you're dealing with. And that's where love really exists in a marriage or in a partnership, any kind of partnership, whether it's a marriage or a civil type of relationship or whatever the case might be. The emotional parts of the marriage, the physical parts of the marriage are important. And I don't mean in any way, shape, or form to downplay that. But what is more important, what binds that whole thing together, that whole pattern together, is the love that exists between two people on an inspirational level. And the couple, the two people involved, inspiring each other and working with each other. And I was talking about politics earlier, and a couple days ago, because of what's happening in the news these days, we were talking about this voting and the voting system and all of that. And at one point we had heard that there were ballots coming in from China, and they were getting mixed in with that. And there was another person there. There were 3 of us talking, and the other person, it says, but how do you prove that it was from China? And I remember saying, well, it's very simple. All you do is take the box and look at it and see if it says made in China. And when I said that, my wife just started laughing. It caught me by surprise. I thought it was kind of a silly joke to say, but for some reason she was laughing and laughing, and for just a couple minutes she was laughing. And my wife is Chinese, by the way. And it made me think afterwards, after we were talking a little bit, when she first came here, that was in 2004, is when she first came to the United States from China. And we would go shopping. And when we would go shopping, I'd be with her, of course, going together. And she would go to the women's department, and I'd go with her into the women's department. And she'd be looking around at stuff, and I'd more or less be waiting for her and kind of patiently looking around and things. And then she would grab one of the items and come over to me and say, look. And she would say, look at the tag. And it would say, made in China. And then we would go and we'd look around some more, and she'd pick up another piece, and she'd lift it up and look at it and look at the tag, and she'd say, look, and it would say made in China. And then this would go on, and we'd go into the appliances section, and you'd pick up a piece of appliance, and she'd pick up an appliance and look underneath it and bottom, and it said made in China. And it got to be funny, because wherever we would go, she intentionally, I think she was aware of things and that, but wherever we would go, when she would look at things, what she would do is she would look at the bottom and look at the tags and see where it was made. And it was interesting, let's just say interesting, to note how many things were made in China. And it was kind of funny. I thought after a while, I thought to myself, well, how about that? Even my wife was made in China. And I hope that's not too silly, but she got a kick out of it when I said, just look at the bottom of the box and see if it says if it's made in China. And it's part of life. It's part of the laughter. It's part of the enjoyment. You got to enjoy life. You really do. You got to enjoy it, or you're missing something really important about you, about yourself, about your soul, about your spirit, about who and what you are, and the divinity that lives and exists within you. And then take that happiness and whatever you can do to pull it within you, pull the happiness within you, pull that feeling of love that exists within you, and then share it with other people. How do you know if love is love? How do you know if what you're doing is love? The way you know if it's love is, do you feel better when you do it, or don't you feel better? If you're feeling better, if you do something and you feel better after you do it, it's an act of love. If you say something to someone and you feel better after you say it, it's an act of love. And I suppose I better say, does the other person feel better too? Hopefully the other person feels better too. Then it's an act of love. I remember one time sitting in a lecture with Kriyananda, with my guru, and he said, I think something that's very good, and I'll kind of close the meditation with this idea, with this thought, in one short story. But I was sitting in a lecture, and he says, how do you know if something is love? And the answer is, you know if something is love if it grows. Whatever you do, if it grows, it's love. And that's what the definition of love. And ever since I heard that, when people talk about love or I think about love, that's what goes into my mind. If anybody says to me anything about love, the first thing that pops into my mind, oh, that's something that grows. And you look at it, is what you said to the person, does their aura expand out? Does it grow? Or does it contract down? If you can feel the person going like this, and see them looking down, whatever you've said, whatever you've done is not an act of love. If you say something, if you do something, and you see the person smile, you can see the light coming from their eyes, coming from their whole being, coming out. You know that whatever it is that you've done, you've exchanged some type of act of love in that transaction. And that's what I think, what I believe we all want to work towards. And with that, I'd like to, again, close with that thought, and then with another short story. And this is a story of trust. Once upon a time, there was a man who was looking for a bowl of fine quality. So he went to the most famous porcelain shop in town to test the quality of the bowls. He picked up one of the bowls on display and knocked it gently against another one. The test went like this. Upon knocking the bowl against another, if he can hear a sweet resonance, he knows he had found an excellent bowl. No luck for the first attempt, though. The sound was dull. He tried the second one. No luck either. Then he tried the third, and a fourth, and a fifth, and was very disappointed. Very disappointed. None of the bowls on display brought him the magical resonance he was looking forward to hearing. The old master craftsman of the shop noticed and saw that the person that had come into the shop had gone awry. The young man, he said, and he picked up another bowl on display. Why don't you use this bowl to do the test, not the one in your hand? So the man did as the master said. And now when he knocked the bowl against the rest of the bowls on display, every bowl chanted. So every bowl is good, the man yells. But why couldn't I hear the resonance just now? Because the bowl you used for the test was flawed, said the master. I am sorry, but I was defective. I'm sorry, but it was a defective one that I was about to throw away. But you had got there before me. That's the end of the story. You see, in life, in your life, how can you expect to love if you can't love? How can you expect beauty if you only see the ugly in everyone else? How can you see truth if you yourself just lie? If you open yourself to the Tao will eagerly welcome you. If you open yourself to virtue, the virtue will become a part of you. If you open yourself to loss, the lost are glad to see you. When you do not trust people, people become untrustworthy. give to receive, and life will be yours. May the infinite Lord of life, of love, and of laughter bless you at this moment. May each cell of your being and each petal of your mind be touched, be healed, and harmonized. May vim and vigor and vitality be yours. May love and laughter be yours. May you truly find that which you seek, and may you find that which you seek surely, swiftly, and most harmoniously. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.